Depending on which osmotic fragility, which test will decrease the osmotic fragility test. So when there is decreased osmotic fragility, there is a shift of this osmotic fragility curve to the left. So these cases are mostly of thalassemia major and sickle cell anemia. And to add to this list, we can even add the forms of hereditary stomatocytosis. And also this form of hereditary stomatocytosis is different because there will be a dehydrated type of hereditary stomatocytosis that shows a shift to the left. And the other form of hereditary stomatocytosis, that is the overhydrated form, this will show a shift to the right. So hereditary stomatocytosis is sort of split between a left and right shift, because the dehydrated form will shift to the left and the overhydrated form will shift to the right. So other diseases in which there is a shift to the right, or there is an increased osmotic fragility, are the cases of hereditary spherocytosis and hereditary xerocytosis, then hereditary elliptocytosis, and then also of the osmotic fragility is decreased in this form. So these hereditary spherocytosis, hereditary elliptocytosis, and this overhydrated form of hereditary stomatocytosis, they cause a shift of the osmotic fragility curve to the right, in which case there is an increased osmotic fragility. The decreased osmotic fragility in terms of membrane disorders is in the dehydrated form of hereditary spherocytosis and this hereditary xerocytosis, the ones that they have mentioned in the option as well. So this is hereditary xerocytosis, which results which results in recurrent fetal loss in fetal hydrops fetalis with neonatal hepatitis and familial hyperkalemia. So some of the various presenting features, symptoms of xerocytosis would be recurrent. So hereditary xerocytosis was would present with a shift to the. So this is one of a very rare, because we are most familiar with the forms of spherocytosis and hereditary spherocytosis and elliptocytosis, which cause this shift to the right. But xerocytosis is also a form of membrane disorders, and this will cause a decreased osmotic fragility, and this will be characterized by recurrent fetal losses and hydrops fetalis, and also the neonatal hepatitis. So mostly it will present very early, which will be so severe. This xerocytosis will be so severe that it will present with recurrent fetal loss and hydrops fetalis, or even this neonatal hepatitis. So and otherwise there will be this. It will also show a familial pseudo hyperkalemia. And then osmotic fragility has been in the two types of hereditary spherocytosis, that is hereditary xerocytosis. It is a form of, and some would consider hereditary xerocytosis to be a form of hereditary stomatocytosis. In this reference to Williams' textbook, which is given in the in this answers explanation section, they have referred to hereditary xerocytosis as being a form of hereditary stomatocytosis in which there is complex permeability defect due to increased membrane lipids. So in the membrane lipids are decreased, and the hereditary stomatocytosis, other form is the hydrocytosis, which is due to deficiency of band 7.2 or stomatin. And both are autosomal dominant inheritance. So with regard to hereditary stomatocytosis, I think this is the one that they have tried to mention here as well. Now different books would probably label it differently. So the explanation that's given according in Robbins is that there will be the evidence that's given in Robbins is that this stomatocytosis is caused by a slit mouth like a slit or stroma that appears on blood films. And these stomatocytes are leaky. These stomatocytes are characterized by this slit stoma-like appearance of the RBCs, and they are leaky to cations. This is one of the basically slit mouth-like appearance is leaky to cations, and then the other the cations that leak out are actually the sodium and potassium. So these will cause the clinical features. And these will cause the clinical features related to this disease. Both of these conditions, in all cases, as we know, they are autosomal dominant in nature and mostly produce moderate hemolytic anemias. So in most of the cases, they are moderate hemolytic anemias with hemoglobin 10 gram per deciliter or above, and the macrocytosis. So mostly in these cases, there will be a macrocyte with the slit stoma-like appearance, and there will be leaky membranes that will cause the release of these cations, that is sodium and potassium. And because of this release of these cations from the cells, they will be the features of hemolysis that would be, and this hemolysis would be moderate hemolysis with hemoglobin 100 gram per deciliter or above, and macrocytosis. And the two variants, they have been the two variants we had read about, the overhydrated form and the dehydrated form. So, and I mentioned that the dehydrated was one that had the decreased osmotic fragility, and the overhydrated one had the increased osmotic fragility. So this book with reference in the explanation, they have mentioned that this that they have mentioned different names for these diseases. The two overhydrated stomatocytosis, it has an MCHC which is low, and in the dehydrated stomatocytosis there is an increased MCHC. So the difference between the overhydrated and the dehydrated ones is that is with reference also to, because the MCV will be increased in both, but the MCHC, that is the mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration, this will be increased in hereditary in the dehydrated one, and this will be decreased in the overhydrated one. So when this stomatocyte becomes overhydrated, actually the mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration decreases, because there will be excess amount of, there will be more sort of water in the red blood cell compared to the hemoglobin. So the hemoglobin concentration will be diluted out because of the overhydration of the red blood cells. And in the dehydrated form, of course, we can say where we can visualize that because the water and the cations leak out, so there's a concentrated fluid, and the hemoglobin concentration will then increase in the dehydrated form. So these are the MCV for both. They are both autosomal dominant forms, and the MCV is increased for both. But the MCHC, this will be decreased for the overhydrated form because of the cell would be because of overhydration, and because of dehydration, the MCHC in this form would be increased. And the blood film will, of course, just show the characteristic stomatocytes. But more commonly, the film is unremarkable except for just macrocytosis and polyphragmia. And pseudo-hyperkalemia is also occurs with this, which we know that they can be a familiar form of pseudo-hyperkalemia that occurs because the potassium that leaks rapidly from the cells. So, and at room temperature. So when the potassium is when the potassium leaks from the RBCs, so there will be a pseudo-hyperkalemia that can occur. So this is because the serum potassium concentration would then be increased. And this can occur even at room temperature. So this is not due to any sort of a cold hemolysis of the cells that the potassium leaks out. Even at room temperatures, these cells are leaky to ions, and they will cause release of this potassium and cause pseudo-hyperkalemia. Now, although the hemolysis is not so severe, the cells are not hemolyzed greatly. It's just the leakage of these ions that is causing that. So the hyperkalemia is not because of breakdown of the cells. It's mostly due to the release of these cations from the leaky channels. And this potassium leak can be greatly increased. It can occur even at room temperature. This potassium leak can occur even at room temperature. And this is greatly increased if the temperature is even at cold temperatures. This will be greatly increased in vitro. So in test tubes, if cold temperatures are maintained, so then this would cause hemolysis, and this is known as cryohydrocytosis. This form is the cryohydrocytosis form, and this is the one that they have mentioned as being as a feature of this disease. So in the dehydrated form, there may be a marked, there is this dehydrated form of spherocytosis is the one that in some books is even referred to as hereditary xerocytosis. So we need to know all the different names for this disorder. That is, hereditary spherocytosis has two forms: the overhydrated form, in which the MCHC will be decreased. Both are autosomal dominant and have an increased MCV, but overhydrated has a decreased MCV, and both of them have leaky channels. Although the defect will be different in either one of them. For example, in the for example, in the overhydrated form, there is this is also known as the hydrocytosis. So because in this case, the RBC would be sort of filled with water, and the potassium and sodium ions would leak out. And the dehydrated form is the one that is known as hereditary xerocytosis. And in this case, when the potassium leaks out into the exterior, and it causes a familial form of hyperkalemia, pseudo hyperkalemia. And this potassium, this hyperkalemia this can increase, and although there is no evidence of hemolysis, but this is just the release of potassium from the leaky cells, and this can be greatly increased by cold. That is why this form is also known as the cryohydrocytosis. So because it is increased because of cold, this can also be known as the cryohydrocytosis. And the dehydrated form is so severe that it can present even perinatally with the perinatal ascites and hydrops fetalis. And but in most cases, this can even resolve spontaneously over the first year of life, but again can lead to extensive unnecessary investigations. So the third problem with hereditary stomatocytosis, both overhydrated and dehydrated varieties, is that the splenectomy is followed by very marked thrombotic tendencies, and so splenectomy should not be performed. So splenectomy in either of these cases, both overhydrated and dehydrated varieties, should not be performed because it would be followed by a very marked thrombotic tendencies. Now, this cold, because the leak in the potassium is more than the leak in the sodium, and this leads to, although both of them are leaky, but the leak in potassium is more than in sodium. And this we know because of the effect that it can occur even at room temperature and at cold. So this is known as a temperature sensitive leak. This is a temperature sensitive leak, in which case at cold it will be more. So the leak is in the case of both these forms is more in with potassium, and more it is temperature sensitive, and it increases further when there is a cold when they're exposed to cold temperatures. So I think we have covered much of these disorders. The only thing that has been mentioned in the explanation was that the hereditary that this xerocytosis has a defect due to increased membrane lipids, and the hydrocytosis form, that is hydrated form, is due to a deficiency of the band 7.2B or stromatin. So in this case, either because of lipid deposition, increased lipid deposition in the which causes a permeability defect. So there is increased lipid deposition in the membrane. So there will be a permeability defect because of which the sodium and potassium ions can leak out, or there could be a deficiency of this band 7.2, which is of course even new to me, because we are more familiar with the band 3 deficiencies, which occur mostly with the other forms of membrane defects. That is, the band 3 defect can occur with this acanthocytosis, in which case altered band will in an exchange protein will lead to acanthocytosis. And also some forms of band 3 defect are present in hereditary spherocytosis, although it is mostly associated with the defects in spectrin and ankyrin. So we'll come. So I think this sort of wraps up this question regarding the this xerocytosis. So they had mentioned all these various forms, and I think we'll now be better able to look at all these various types. We know that the hereditary the various explanations that they had mentioned, hereditary spherocytosis and elliptocytosis, they do not cause a decrease in the osmotic fragility. In fact, they increase the osmotic fragility. And this form of hereditary xerocytosis, and then now we have this hereditary stomatocytosis. These are both forms. These are actually both the different names for the hereditary spherocytosis, stomatocytosis. The stomatocytosis, which is the hydrocytosis form, this is the overhydrated type, and this will also cause an increase in osmotic fragility. So both these and this overhydrated form of stomatocytosis cause an increase in osmotic fragility. The only thing that will cause a decrease in osmotic fragility is the hereditary xerocytosis, which they have also mentioned in different textbooks as being the dehydrated form. And we know now this is characterized by increased in MCH. Because of the dehydration, there will be an increased MCHC, and also they will be caused by this will cause marked neonatal hepatitis and ascites, and will be and even in some cases may present with the hydrops fetalis. But beyond the first year of life, these may sometimes even spontaneously the, the symptoms may spontaneously resolve over time, and but they lead to the only difference is that these cells they do not hemolyze so often. It's just the hyperkalemia that they may cause, and they may cause certain problems with the in certain diagnostic problems, especially because of the presence of hyperkalemia in the serum, and because of the marked macrocytosis. So when these they maintain the hemoglobin around about 10 gram per deciliter. So because of this, there may not be much morbidity or mortality for the patient after the first year of life, but they of course cause diagnostic complications, and they have to be ruled out because of the presentations that they present with. And one of the main important thing with this is that because of the persistent anemia, and because of the certain signs that they come across with, if they are diagnosed, and this is the form of most cases of hereditary spherocytosis, and in case of this leptocytosis, even splenectomy can be performed. But in the dehydrated and overhydrated forms of the stomatocytosis, splenectomy is to be avoided. So this is one of the diagnostic points when there's workup for any sort of membrane disorders, these should be ruled out. Basically, we have to rule them out before going for any splenectomy, because splenectomy would further aggravate the thrombocytosis and lead to marked thrombotic tendency post splenectomy. So now regarding this second MCQ, in which they have mentioned this dominant type of hereditary spherocytosis. Now the second MCQ is regarding the hereditary spherocytosis. And now hereditary spherocytosis, they have asked about about this dominant form and what deficiency it causes. Now you know that the spherocytosis is actually a disorder than which mostly there is autosomal dominant disorder with the lack of, but it can also present in as an autosomal recessive trait. So, so it's like a mixed inheritance pattern. But in this MCQ, they tried to ask about specifically about the autosomal dominant inheritance pattern. So this with this we need to know about not only the defects, because hereditary spherocytosis has different can present with not only autosomal dominant and autosomal recessive traits with regard to the presentation, but there are also other forms. There are different defects. They can be defects in the spectrin and chirin forms also. So the most common deficiency is that of hereditary spherocytosis is the ankyrin defect. And we can remember this because this is opposite to that of hereditary elliptocytosis, in which there is a spectrin defect more common. We know that the both S cannot be together. This is one thing that we must, if this is hereditary spherocytosis here, then the most common form would be the ankyrin. And in hereditary elliptocytosis, the most common form would be the spectrin. But there is also a component of spectrin defect that can occur, and especially with the severe hereditary spherocytosis, the alpha spectrin form, there are different other various forms that can occur. So the most common in case of hereditary spherocytosis is the ankyrin. The most common in case of hereditary elliptocytosis is the spectrin defect. But there can be a mix between the two. For example, in hereditary elliptocytosis, the spectrin, it would vary between the alpha and the beta forms, alpha and beta spectrin forms, and they can also be defect in the protein 4.1. And whereas in hereditary spherocytosis, the defect is mostly autosomal dominant. And, this autosomal dominance is mostly 75% of the cases there will be an autosomal dominant inheritance, and in the rest 25% there would be autosomal recessive form. This hereditary spherocytosis is this is characterized by the spherical shape. So stomatocytosis was because of the stoma phase of the RBCs, and they were macrocytes, and with the stoma with leaky cations, either due to lipid deposition in the membranes, or due to some certain protein bands, like in this case there was 7.2 they had mentioned that was defective. So there were certain bands that were defective, channels are causing leaky channels. In hereditary spherocytosis, now the most common typical presentation of this is because of the autosomal dominant nature, and the most common in this is the ankyrin defect. So with this, we come to the next part of this. In how many percentage of hereditary spherocytosis spherocytes are seen in peripheral small? Now we know that these spherocytes, they are typical for hereditary spherocytosis patients. That the appearance of these spherocytes is a typical spherical shape, which induces this characteristic appearance of these cells. So they are typically rounded in shape, and this spherocytic presentation is the one because of which they are picked up. And they will be smaller than the normal diameter, and then they lack the lack this area of central pallor. So these are two sort of differentiating points. That is, they will be smaller, and they will lack the central pallor, which is characteristic of because of the biconcave disc shape of the RBCs. And mostly they are generally they are autosomal dominant. But with a wide spectrum of severity. It's a very heterogeneous sort of a disease with a wide spectrum of severity, and the usual clinical picture is of a mild to moderate hemolytic anemia, but it may varies from severe neonatal hemolysis with the nicterus to clinically silent and asymptomatic hemolysis. And then the autosomal recessive inheritance occurs in a few mutations, and it often produces severe hemolysis. So we know that the autosomal dominant form is the most common, and it is and the autosomal recessive is relatively less common. This is most common. This has a varying presentation. So they can be compound heterozygosity in this case also. So it can vary from very severe neonatal presentation to asymptomatic. But the autosomal recessive is less common, and but it produces more severe hemolysis. And it is more in northern and the European population, and less in the African Americans and Southeast Asians. But there is one, that is the Japanese form, in which case the protein 4.2 is affected. We know that protein 4.1 was the one that was affected in hereditary elliptocytosis. So in this case, there could be defect not only in the ankyrin, or to some cases even in the spectrin form, but there could be also this defect in protein 4.2. 4.1 is the one associated with hereditary elliptocytosis. 4.2 is the one that is associated with the Japanese variant. So more common this defect is in the northern European dysentery, and less in African American and Southeast Asian, because in Southeast Asia we have the other form, that is Southeast Asian velocytosis, which is more common. So, so in scenarios also they may give not only the inheritance pattern, but also the ethnicity of the patient, and invites also the hereditary spherocytosis is one of the most common. So this is more common in Northern Europe, European dysentery. So this is the most common hemolytic anemias due to membrane defects with the prevalence of 200 to 300 per million population. And but most of them are silent carriers. So that is why the occurrence might be a little higher than this predicted. And in 60% of patients, there is defect in the ankyrin spectrin. And in 25%, there is even this band 3. So it could be ankyrin, and some cases even spectrin, and even band 3. So I told you there are varying presentation of both autosomal dominant and recessive, and compound heterozygotes may be there as well. And defects may be seen in all these proteins. Most commonly is the ankyrin, which was the answer to the above question. The most common autosomal dominant is most common, and the most common defect would be in ankyrin. But band 3 and 4.2 proteins, they can also, and spectrin, all these can also occur. Yes, and we know that protein 4.2 is more common in Japanese, but band 3 can also occur in about 25% of cases. And in rare cases, just regarding these the expression of this disease, in rare cases of the Rh null phenotype, they also present with spherocytosis and mild anemia. And so these defects involving the ankyrin spectrin and band 3, because ankyrin spectrin band 3 and protein 4.2, they form the defects in the vertical interactions. So hereditary spherocytosis can occur with defects in all these vertical interactions, but most commonly are the ankyrin, and then also in band 3 and protein 4.2 also, and then they have an association with the Rh null phenotype. Now, regarding the percentage, this is, I think, a pretty but something that is we have to look this up in the literature, and now the answer to this they have referred to is the 60%. So this is we know about different percentages for autosomal dominant and recessive. We know the various percentages for the ankyrin defect and the band 3. So but the percentage of hereditary spherocytosis which shows spherocytes, this percentage is written, this is with reference to Williams. They have mentioned this as 60%. So although the spherocytes are present in, we expect them to be present in all cases of hereditary spherocytosis, but because of the varying presentation, I think the answer to this they have mentioned is that of 60%. 60% is also the prevalence of ankyrin defects and ankyrin spectrin defects in these population. But beyond that, of course, we may just have to remember this because of the reference to this text. Then increased osmotic fragility is seen in all. Now we were first going through the decreased osmotic fragility, and we mentioned all these diseases, and we were able to highlight the various forms that is only in these are membrane disorders. So there are other conditions also. We might as well go through them right now. That particularly with reference to osmotic fragility, there are membrane disorders. So we have membrane disorders, and in those cases we have done the ones that